Yes, we have we have had apologies from councillors Peter Burgess and Mike Croker.
Yes, and sitting tonight, he didn't want to miss it.
This is actually true. I walked in and was told that I'd give my apologies, and I didn't realise I had. So.
Well, we're very pleased to see you. And I think Christian's was going to give his apologies, or gave his apologies, and he decided it would be a scintillating meeting. Oh,
no, factually incorrect. Never gave any apologies. Oh. It's all on email. Never gave any apologies. It's Peter Burgess.
Right.
I clarified the membership of the committee.
Oh, was that what it was? Right. Okie dokie. Well, welcome everybody. Minutes of the last meeting. Any issues? Are you happy for me to approve the minutes or for them to be approved? Good, good. Do you want me to sign something? What, just the front page?
Yes, please, yes.
Do you want me to date it, or will you date it? Any declarations of members' interest? I suppose we all have an interest in a way, don't we? Mindful of May the 4th. Well, most of us. No? Well, don't look so. You'll miss us.
I will. You're dead right. I will. Yes.
Mind you, that's making an assumption that some of us will be back. Right. Any announcements? I've got no particular announcements. Or anyone on behalf of the Chief Executive? No? Now, the main item today is the interim review of polling places and the potential, I won't say potential, the necessary amendment to the Constitution. There was a full review of polling places in 2019, but that seems a long way away in more senses than one now. And of course, what has happened to affect polling places has been the fact that we've had the COVID issue over quite a time, which has affected quite badly children's education. And as a result of that, a number of head teachers have and governing bodies have decided they're not that keen, certainly at this stage, of having their schools used as polling stations, because they feel this is a further interruption in the education of their children. So that has necessitated some changes. Those changes are set out in the schedule to your papers. You'll see actually from your papers that there was a quite extensive consultation with members, ward members who were affected. And there now appears to be agreement with ward members for the revised list. However, the quite significant number of changes that have had to have been made suggest that moving forward, we need to be able to act quickly in relation to any potential changes, very mindful of the fact that we have elections coming up on May the 4th. And therefore, you're being asked today to agree 3 recommendations to approve the revised schedule, which is the schedule I referred to delegate authority to the returning officer in consultation with ward members to make any temporary changes to the schedule of polling places that may prove necessary, and recommend to full council a proposed amendment to the Constitution to delegate that authority to the returning officer, of course, in consultation with ward members. I should perhaps indicate that there's going to be a full review of polling stations, another comprehensive review of all polling stations, probably starting later this year. So that will obviously be very relevant to the general election, assuming it comes around the time that we expect it to. Now, I wonder whether I can anticipate, whether members would allow me to anticipate a point that, well, it's not anticipating it because it's already been raised. It's a point that Tony's raised. If you look at paragraph 4.2, you see the proposed wording that would appear in the Constitution to reflect the change we're discussing tonight. Now, I think I'm not putting words in Tony's mouth, or the wrong word, should I say, in Tony's mouth, when he has suggested he'd like to see that as the actual wording itself, that wording that's set out in 4.2, included in the recommendation little 3 that we put to council. I'm interested to hear what members feel about this. My own feeling is it's not necessary, and to make it doubly not necessary, if I can put it like that, what I would propose is that we specifically mention this wording in the minutes of this meeting, and that when I give the report to full council, we will not only approve, hopefully, the wording of the recommendation, but also I will draw attention to the wording in 4.2. I shall read it out and indicate that we have confirmed the committee's agreement to this wording in the minutes of the committee. So if I could throw it open to discussion on this item, and I don't know, Tony, whether you'd like to. I hope I've not done you an injustice by the way I've reported that.
No, that's fine. I felt that the way it was presented, it was the actual wording was rather buried, and I'm always worried when we're actually amending the Constitution that amendment should be completely visible to everyone, rather than, I mean, on occasions we've seen a proposal to amend the Constitution without actually a wording, so it was going to be left to later. This is fine, and I think if you do what you suggest and underline that when you report to full council, I'll be more than happy with that.
In the paper that's presented to council, and I will read it out so that council's absolutely clear what wording would go into the Constitution. Yes, Ray.
I don't. I sort of disagree, really. If we're going to put wording or suggested wording in the Constitution, you seem to be going, by the sound of it, it's a long-winded way of going about having to explain something. Whereas if you simply put the words that you're going to change in the Constitution in the recommendation, wouldn't that be a whole lot easier in the first place? They essentially are not saying that, we could sit here and compare it word for word. But if the actual wording that's going in the Constitution is what we're being asked to approve and what council is being asked to approve, rather than you have to explain what you're suggesting, why don't we simply put in the recommendations under 2 the actual wording that's going in there? Am I missing a point? Because it says under 4.2, will in consultation with relevant ward members redesignate new polling spaces where such becomes unavailable or unsuitable for election. And the recommendation is basically says the same thing, but why don't we just, have the actual wording we're going to use? Then you haven't got to go through all around the houses, as it were.
Well, it's not really going around the house.
No, but all right, but
that's
what-
open to obviously discussion. If that is, of course,
But I can't.
that is an option.
I can't see why you simply can't do that, because it's exactly the same, and it clears up any reason for you to have to explain it. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, it is an option. So it's a question for the committee to decide this evening. It's not nobody's saying we can't do that or we shouldn't do that. It's just that there are a couple of ways we could deal with this, and obviously putting the wording into the recommendation. I don't know whether it would set, there are a number of occasions when you might have more complicated wording, and I just wonder whether it would make the recommendation a bit unwieldy on other occasions. But there's no reason why this wording shouldn't go in the recommendation. What do members feel?
I think if my maxim would be keep it simple and easy for everybody to understand exactly what's going on, and therefore I would put it in the recommendation, and that would be it.
Okay. Christian?
Well, I thought Roman numeral 3 in the recommendation just needs tying up to paragraph 4.2. So I mean, it's nearly there. It's just the dots just need joining up a bit more. So just Roman numeral 3 just says recommend full council the proposed amendment, comma, as set out at paragraph 4.2. I mean, it's there. I mean, to approve the proposed amendment is in the report. So it's not complicated. But I do agree with what Councillor Bevis and Councillor Dora said.
So are you asking?
So just put it in as drafted at paragraph 4.2 of the main report.
So you want it to cross-refer to the report?
Well, I thought that's what the debate was, Chairman. I thought
No,
people
the
were saying
idea
what
was
the
to put
wording
it
was.
actually in the specific
We'll
recommendation.
do that. Well, it would,
What
because
keep-
it would say recommend the proposed wording as at paragraph 4.2. I mean, you can repeat it again, but it's already written at paragraph 4.2.
It is. Yeah.
And then everyone knows that that is the wording. But you can equally bring it up and it can say change to the constitution, : to read. I mean, I don't mind, but it is there. Everyone has different styles of drafting and drafting reports, but you can do it as a separate recommendation, but to say rewriting it, it just needs to say as at paragraph 4.2.
Right?
Well, fine, but I for the second 2 lines, I delete it.
Yes, I agree.
And it's,
Yeah.
I don't think we're establishing a precedent by simply saying there should be in there. I just think it just put it in there. It's not very complicated to change recommendations to, and it just simply makes it very clear. Then anyone will explain it.
No, quite.
Yeah. Or the committee just sends new. I know in recent time, papers to council have really just referred on the committee papers, because generally there hasn't been much change, but it can just be done as a separate lay round. So we would rewrite Roman numerals 1, 2 and 3, well, essentially 3, and then that will go in the council papers, won't it? It will sit alongside this main report, and it will have number 3, recommend to full council to approve the proposed amendment, namely, and then we'll rewrite it out, and then everyone will see it immediately.
Yeah, okay.
And then it can be done as a separate sheet of A4 and uploaded, and then it's all clear, and it makes it a swifter meeting at council.
Robin, is that?
That's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Is that the will of the committee? Yes. Good. That's agreed then. Any other comments on this? Tony?
Yeah, first of all, apologies for not actually formally responding to the consultation. Roffey North is moving both of its polling stations. I agree with the recommendation for Roffey North on the basis that we've got very few community facilities in the ward. We've got 2 places of worship and 3 schools. Clearly the schools don't want to be used, and I don't think either the places of worship are that keen either. So the Roffey Club seems to be the only option. But one question, against some of these changes, it says following the resolution. What resolution was that? I understand the background to it, but I don't think there's ever been a resolution to avoid the use of schools.
Yes, I don't know what form this resolution took.
I think it was Billingshurst Primary School that objected to start with. Because I thought it was a shame. I thought
I mean, the objections have come from head teachers and governing bodies, but I don't know what status this resolution.
checking to see if we could find out.
Yes, we're just checking
we
on
did
that.
discuss this, was it 2019, before COVID? We met over there, and it was a particularly rainy day, very rainy day, and very bad traffic. We were discussing polling stations and the general new view of schools and head teachers, and I think we were hoping wherever possible not to inconvenience schools. So I think it was that. And Councillor Bradman was a member of the committee, and obviously we debated about the council using its powers, which it can do, to sort of commandeer a school. But you know, I think the view was wherever possible we would try to avoid. So I don't think it's a resolution, but it was a direction of travel, I think.
I think that's right. I'm trying to recollect. I think I was on the committee at that time. So, sorry, Lauren.
So it went to the governance committee. It was due to go to the governance committee on the 17th of March 2020 to review the use of schools, and I believe it went to a meeting following that, because I think that one was postponed due to COVID. So there was, it was the Billingshurst. You're right. Meeting of the governance committee on the 10th of June in 2020. There was a resolution to find an alternative to using the schools there.
And I thought it was rather a shame, because it could have been used as an educational tool. We're closing the school because, and this is how it works, and this is how democracy works, except that was my idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm just impressed that as a result of the consultation, they've managed to make forest voting very logistical. You know, in other words, everyone will get to the nearest polling station as opposed to wandering all around the country. So I'm very pleased about that. Thank you very much. Very good.
Can I make a request? I remember now, thinking back to the last election, we changed the polling station in Thacombe because they demolished the old village hall and moved, the polling station got moved to the new community centre. But I don't think it was communicated very well, because we got calls from people saying, where am I supposed to vote? So I think what we did, we need to put a reasonable amount of effort into communicating to residents in those areas where we've changed the location.
And that's information we can put on the poll card, just to say, note change of polling station. On the poll card, we can do that.
Yeah, good. Yes, Ray.
Yeah, just a question really. I'm trying to understand the consultation. Because if we go to the appendix, or whatever we want to call it, where it's all listed, and that's on after page 10, we appear to have had only input from 4 members of this council onto what are 6 wards, is it? looks like 6 wards. And it simply says returning officer comments, but we don't have, and they've obviously asked the parish councils, but we don't have any idea what the parish councils have said. So is it reasonable to presume that the parish councils all were happy with the recommendation? So all I'm asking really.
That's the impression I get.
Yeah, the appendix that's attached has all the responses to the consultation. So those 4 comments were the responses that we received.
So, right, so if it says following the completion, we must assume that we're not going to do anything suddenly have the parish councils jumping up and down.
No. That's correct, isn't it?
I didn't hear anything to the contrary from the parish
No,
councils.
no.
So.
No.
Did they look?
They were all contacted. They were all emailed with the information and invited to provide their comments.
Fine. Any other comments on this? Okay, otherwise we will agree the 3 recommendations subject to an amendment to recommendation 3 to include the exact wording of the amendment to the Constitution as set out in paragraph 4.2. And we've agreed not to cross-refer to it, but to put it actually in the recommendation. So it's in front of people when they vote on this at council. Is everyone happy with that as we move forward with the recommendation? Good, thank you very much.
Do you need someone to propose and second that in the governance committee meetings?
Do we need that? Well, if you think we need it.
Maybe for the sake of order, just in case.
Right, can we have a proposer then? Seconder? All those in favour? Right, good. You don't want a recorded vote? Right. So that's item 5. There's no urgent business that I'm aware of under item 6. So on that basis.
Before we close, sort of going slightly off piece, but as we're talking about elections, can I just ask how work is progressing with the voter ID project? Whether there's anything for us to be concerned about.
Chairman, on a point of order, I mean, that's not on, there's no any other business, and we're not allowed any other business in local, so I think you should close the meeting, there can be a discussion, but voter ID isn't on the agenda, so I'm not being difficult, but there isn't the scope to have a free chat about other matters. So my suggestion is that we close the meeting and people can stay or have separate discussions.
No, but it is very important that everyone's clear what constitutes voter ID. And no doubt we will, I shall certainly think it very important that we do that, because it's the sort of situation where what we don't want is people being turned away from polling stations. And so we've got to do all we can to communicate